Welcome to Weird Games and Weirder People, a podcast about role playing games and the weird, wonderful people behind them. Hello, wonderful weirdos. This is Diogo Nogueira, and today's guest is the incredible David Blandy. He's an artist, game designer, musician. He does a lot of stuff, and he's the creator of Los Eons and Eco Mofos. But before we get into that, I have a couple of announcements. I'll be on Game On Expo on Phoenix, Arizona from March 15th to March 17th, and on Gary Chrome from March 23rd to 25th. And I also like to remind you to subscribe to the show wherever you listen to your podcast and leave us a review too to help people get to know the podcast, see how good it is or how bad it is. I don't know what you write on your review. And also, if you like the show, support the show. And then there's links on the show notes for how you can, pay us a coffee or buy one of my books. But getting back to David Blandy, we talked about how he likes to explore art to different mediums. We talked about how he has many influences that shapes the way he approaches his work. He talked about how he likes to discover the world to play and how he makes his games and his products and books to do exactly that. We talk about how music is so important to him in the creative process. We talk about games that build instead of destroy, and how important it is for to explore different possibilities instead of just killing and looting and this kind of stuff. We talk about his favorite games, his favorite weird games. We talked about being one with the universe. Was a really insightful episode. We had many great ideas, fantastic conversation. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. So let's get weird with David Blandy. Hello, David. Welcome to Weird Games and Weirder People. I'm happy to have you here. And how have you been, my friend?
Hey Diogo, thanks so much for having me on here. Yeah, I've been good. It's been a kind of a strange few weeks, but I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. Thank you.
Yeah, well, welcome. I'm excited to have you here. And since the podcast, it's all about the weird and the strange, and you mentioned strange few weeks. Would you mind at least comment what's going on?
Oh, just it's kind of all sorts of things like my daughter turning 16. That's all quite. It's kind of
Uh,
it high kind of brings out a sort of existential angst in every father. I think that sort of
oh
like
yeah,
so
yeah,
and um and then also just like work stuff with like thinking about where my cause I'm an artist in kind of my day job, and where my work's going next and what the next project should be. It's kind of a kind of limbo space right now for me, rather than like for the last few years it's all been very very hectic. And it's kind of nice that it's not like that, but at the same time that just brings anxiety. But I don't know like
yeah.
I don't know
Well, yeah.
about that.
Two things to talk about. Like the daughter turning 16. I remember the joke I heard. Uh, was one comedian talking to another and saying, after your kid turns 18 and leave your house, uh, getting all the time together you spend with them, you'll see them one more year of their lives. And the comedian next to them, does that bother you? And the other, no, not at all. That's great. But it is scary, right? Because I don't know.
It's just I guess the main thing is it's change, isn't it? Like it's that
Yeah.
transition from you being a parent and that being a main part of your life. I mean, my son's still 13, so like we're still going to have kids around.
Oh yeah.
I don't, you know, like in the UK, it's really really expensive to move out from home. So
Oh
I
yeah.
actually don't foresee them going anywhere, to be honest. But still,
Yeah.
it's that sense of like, just that idea that kind of family time is central to each day and things, that may shift a little bit, and it's
Yeah.
just getting used to
Yeah.
those sorts of changes. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
after I mean, life has felt very very hectic in many ways especially since lockdown, because like after COVID, like everyone, we were all together and everything kind of slowed down in a nice I actually kind of enjoyed it, like despite the horror. Like I kind of enjoyed that fact of being
Yeah,
together with the family and kind of feeling like, like us against the world sort of sensation. Like,
there were definitely good and bad moments for sure.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So it's yeah, and then you kind of come out of that, and everyone's kind of dispersing to all sorts of places, and yeah, life is
yeah,
different. But yeah,
yeah,
this isn't
yeah.
really weird in the right way. So let's get
For
more
someone
weird.
that enjoys staying home and doing things at home and watching a movie and reading a book and spend time playing, like I love playing Legos with my kid. Staying at
Mm,
home can be great, but uh for my wife, for example, she needs to get out of home. She If we stayed like for weeks without going out, or if like her
mm, mm.
friends for some reason can go out for a while, you can see clearly the anxiety levels rising and rising. She's not feeling well. She needs to get up. I could stay
Yeah,
like 2 months and not doing nothing, just stay at home. And I was like, yeah, okay. Like I can go out and like do walk through the neighborhood because I like walking, but I just don't need to. Yeah, let's go do something. Yeah, I'm fine, But for some people,
yeah,
that's really important. Yeah.
yeah. I think we're quite similar, to be honest. I think I'm essentially, I don't mind doing things, but I very rarely initiate things in terms
Yeah.
of like, going out and I don't know, like going to a
Yeah.
show or something. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
This
it's fun
like
when it happens, but like,
yeah.
I don't think I have to do it. But yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow we are going to a show of a friend of mine has a band and is opening, for like other bigger bands. And I was really excited to go to the show. I was going, but then now I'm realized, no, but it's not like they're opening. It's gonna be a bigger show. There'll be a lot of people there, and I'm like, I don't know. But I want to go, but I also don't want to go. It's weird, but yeah. But David, talking a little bit, you said you're an artist as a day job, and for me, being a game designer is also being an artist. But what what do you do as a day job, being an artist? Are you a painter,
Yeah.
or what do you do?
So I make mostly weird videos that go in galleries. So often they're what people call like essay films. So it'll be like a film that is sort of talking about a particular subject, but often in a slightly poetic way with visuals that I make myself, often soundtrack that I make myself. um, Kind of, yeah, thinking about different ideas about what makes us who we are in the world. So yeah, I totally
Wow.
see game
Yeah.
design as part of my practice in some ways. um, and I see all game designers as artists, really. So,
Yeah.
because you're designing a space that people will enter into in their minds and explore, and that's an incredible like thing to try and put together. Um, and yeah, I see it as a real art form to do it. I'm just a baby designer, really. I've only been designing games for the last 5 years or something. But I love it. I've been playing games all my
Yeah.
life, so it felt like a natural progression from thinking about ideas of yeah, kind of collective performativity. So trying to like when you're so I really like in artwork kind of engaging people very directly, or getting like I've performed a lot in artworks like as kind of part of my video artwork. But then I really like the idea of kind of giving a space for other people to perform in, and that's really what tabletop role play is in many ways. It's like you're getting to control
Yeah.
these avatars in a kind of imaginary space, and yeah, it's just really exciting, like space for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
and
But
and I
but I
just,
mean,
yeah, love the whole community around it as well. So
yeah. To
yeah.
be honest, like we are all, most of us are all kind of baby game designers. I've been, you know, publishing something since 2016, so it's not that much longer. But you mentioned like playing games throughout your life, and I do think every dungeon master
it's kind of a game designer, so we have been training for this
No,
for a
that's
while,
yeah,
in a
no,
sense,
that's
right?
very true. It's very
Yeah,
true.
and
Um, yeah, I was a kind of frustrated Dungeons and Dragons player when I was like 11 or 12. That's when I got the red box, which is the compilation of like, yeah, the basic set, which I don't know if you had
yeah.
that in Brazil, but it's like,
No, we
it's,
didn't. We had
yeah.
something similar, that black box from the 90s.
Oh, right.
The
Yeah.
new Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. And it was, yeah, similar. But I got to have, the first basic done from the Arrow Autos cover, which is my favorite, D&D version.
Mm,
It's so simple and elegant, and Arrow Autos art is so weird. It's so unique and
yeah.
gives a total different feel for the game to me, in a way. Yeah.
No, I think I mean, in many ways, like early D&D is like hyper weird, you know? Like, I mean, it's kind of the way it's become kind of codified and commodified and yeah, made into a product now. It kind of feels very much like, D&D corporate version. But like the origins of it, it's like, what are the stats for this kind of
Yeah.
plastic miniature that I've found at the junk store or something. It's like it's
Yeah.
that sort of thing, and then
It's very
bring it in.
playful.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
playful
really
in a
playful.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really kind of improvisatory and kind of yeah, a
Yeah.
really like scratch built feel to it. And then
Yeah.
it kind of then they tried to make some money. But this is fine. Like good luck to them. But yeah,
Yeah. 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 It's the system, right? And they're going with the system in a way, and
yeah,
yeah.
completely.
But as we're talking about this playful part, I think that's something that's attracts me even more to games is how you turn the game to something more playful for everybody, even for like the GM, because for a long while, like the GM had to do all this prep and was similarly kind of homework in a way.
Yeah.
Playing was fine, but you always have this responsibility, to entertain, and you have this story and you have to prepare, and things have to go according to the plan. And now embracing this more improvisational and let's play to find out is
Mm,
really turning the games something more playful. Like, oh, we have all these things we can play with to generate a story. So
yeah.
even preparing to game, it's gaming in a way. So I that's
No,
something
that's true. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
lovely.
it's
Yeah,
yeah. I think time is precious, and I think, and
yeah,
also, it doesn't feel right that one player should have all this pressure put on them when as sort of an
oh
entertainer
yeah,
or something, that, and that's I think that's yeah, a large part of my design has been trying to create basically prep free game systems so that
yeah,
yes, you can prepare things, but if you don't want to or you just haven't, or like people go a different way, like you can just roll a couple of dice and suddenly like a whole scenario kind of emerges for you, and you don't have to be under so much pressure in that moment. You can just riff off what's kind of this setting has given you. So yeah, that was a large part behind both Lost Eons, but also Eco Mofos that yeah we've been keeping working on. It's that idea that you kind of yeah you discover the world through play, and I think that's I really enjoy that kind of method as a very lazy GM. That's it's perfect for me.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I try and make things that I want to see in the world that I want to play.
yeah,
So that's
yeah.
that's kind of a
Yeah,
prime motivation.
I joke that my design philosophy is the design of the lazy GM thinking. I'm designing games for the lazy GM.
Yeah.
That's because that's me. And yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
I mean, I think that's important though. Like, if you want to see it, then maybe other people would find it
yeah,
useful. So you know,
yeah,
um, and yeah, I think it's a really satisfying way to try and build both a world and like a vibe, a feeling, but just through little prompts, through items, through kind of the details that you put in. So rather than forcing someone to read like I don't know a little novella, they're
yeah,
discovering all of that. that setting just through
To
interacting with the
play,
game
yeah.
itself. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and I love when, there isn't so much information, there is like a paragraph or two of a location and there is like tables, but the tables also kind of tell the story, like each result tells a little bit more
mm,
of there. So instead of just, like the oldest setting books that like we would, there's this city, like every city has a store and have like everything, and you have like to memorize, or oh, in this kingdom this is happening, there is this person doing this, and it's very it's stable, nothing changes, you
yeah,
know and having these games that gives just enough meats and tools for you to generate what is going on. So every time you play it can be different, like you don't have to oh, you want to go to this city, like over there, instead of going to the wizard tower adventure they're prepared. Okay, let's open on this page and roll some dice, and okay, yeah, this, like, well, there revolutions going on, they're going after the lord, the local lord, and the
yeah.
local lord sends someone to ask you for help. What's gonna do?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then exactly, it kind of spirals into a whole other thing. No, it's yeah,
yeah,
I love that kind of method.
yeah.
I've just finished reading, and I got it a while back, but I wanted to read it cover to cover, and it's the Reach of the Roach God by ZXU
Mm,
and Caruso, and yeah, it's so sad that it's out of print now, but it has that at its core is sort of everything
yeah,
is sort of generated all the time, like kind of just to the extent that you're designing dungeons by putting
yeah,
articulated toys together. Have you seen this? Like, so
yeah.
you get like an action man, and you get a Ninja Turtle, and you get like some Lego figures, and you kind of lay them out on the floor, and that becomes your kind of all the different
Wow,
areas of a kind of dungeon complex, and then and then
that's
you
fantastic.
put a ribbon over all of those toys, and that's the river that goes through this whole complex. So it kind of has this kind of different organic elements to it. It's nice. It's really playful. Like even like the illustrations in the book are of of literally like I can't remember, is there a He-Man, I can't remember, anyway, but they're obviously like really iconic kind of toys, and just to have that inside a book that's about kind of looking at Malaysian folklore through this kind of weird lens. Like it kind of it's a really really nice kind of play. It's not, saying it almost part of that says to the reader, like, this is serious, but it's also this is play. This is
Yeah,
we're entering into a space that is to be played with. It's a toy in the end of at the end of the day. These
yeah,
books that we write. So
yeah.
yeah,
That's a great approach to writing. And David, for the wonderful weirdos out there that might not know who David Blandy is, and but
yes.
I also like to hear from your words instead of reading through a bio. So
Hmm.
who is David? What is that you do? And please share just a small weird detail or habit about yourself that others might have pointed out that David, that's
Okay.
weird.
Okay. Yeah, my name's David Blandy. I am a artist and game designer. I work primarily in I like making zines for the tabletop role play space. Often inside like the indie OSR kind of area, I guess NSR maybe you might want to call it. Um, and I like to make games that um, I guess make people think about the present and the future, and how we're engaging with this present, and how we're going to live into this future. So that's sort of where I come from. My art is always thinking about um, what are the things that make us who we are, from the pop culture that we consume through to kind of the politics and geopolitical events that kind of shape our lives. So and I think all of that feeds into the tabletop role play stuff that I produce. So that's all that. And then a weird detail. Um I can recite the whole of Bring the Ruckus off the top of my head because that was one of my art pieces that I made in the past. Is a Wu-Tang tune. So yeah, I don't know if you know much hip hop, but like that's yeah something that people might not know about me.
Wow, yeah, I didn't know about hip hop. I just I am getting into it, and I wasn't, I was really more restricted with, music.
Yeah.
I'm getting more flexible and getting to know some because the history of hip hop is very very interesting, and I love this. There was this documentary on Netflix uh, of hip hop artists talking about how jazz jazz was the hip hop back then, and
Oh,
it was like
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a kind
wow,
of another iteration of that. Is that
yeah,
idea of kind of taking things and remixing them and kind of giving it your own spin and improvising over a beat. Like, I mean, yeah, there's so many mixed kind of similarities with jazz.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it's music's a big part of my life, and hip hop, like for a long time, was a very big part of who I am. So yeah, it's that's kind of a kind of weird detail that is not too not too evident in either kind of what I talk about or kind of where I am right now. But it's always there, you know, those things.
nice. And do
Uh,
you have favorite artists or something you're constantly listening to, or that made
yeah, I mean,
an
yeah,
impact on you, or songs or anything like this for
I
hip
think
hop?
I keep returning to a Raekwon the Chef album called Only Built for Cuban Links, which is maybe not the best hip hop album in the world, but it just whole there's so many songs on that album that just have really particular associations for me. And the the lyrics, the delivery is so precise and sharp and sometimes funny. And yeah, it's one of those bits of music that is just kind of needled into my brain and just won't let go. I mean, I could say the same for certain like things that aren't hip hop, like say Black Sabbath's War Pigs or something. It's like
Yeah,
there are certain there are certain things that just I need to hear again and again, and it just always brings back a certain feeling, which is yeah, which is nice. It's
do
kind of
yeah.
comforting, but also like energizing, you know?
Uh, do you have like albums or something that you, for like a period of time, you listen a lot to? Because like I it kind of drives my wife kind of hectic that I get to an album and I hear it constantly for like 6 months or something, and then she
That's
can't stand it anymore, and she starts singing it too because I can't stop listening to it.
yeah, that's exactly me. I mostly listen on headphones though, so I try not to annoy my wife too much in that way.
Oh yeah,
But and it's I'm more like I mostly listen to music when I'm walking, so it's kind of
yeah,
more kind of creating a rhythm and like yeah, I'm kind of on my own doing some chores or something, and I'll be
yeah.
listening to my music. So yeah, but recently that's been has been like yeah, it's been mostly Black Sabbath and Wu-Tang actually, which are like they're two completely different things, but they kind of occupy a similar psychic space for me. um
Yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, I think variety is very important. Like I I know, like I have hyper focus on stuff and then get obsessed with some stuff. And my kids too, I always try to say, yeah, you need to vary the stimulus. Like you can't just watch this kind of stuff. You have to try different things because he always likes to create stuff too. Like as artists, we have to mix things up, right?
Yeah.
And it's great to have different tastes and try different things and then see how they mix. For a while I was very only punk rock, and but then there's some cool things. There is like albums of Ramones being played in like bossa nova rhythm. So like
Oh,
it started
cool. Yeah.
to move. in different ways. So
Yeah,
and now
yeah.
I'm enjoying other stuff too, and it's great.
No,
And
I think
and
I think I'm quite similar in that I really like, um I'll get kind of fixated on a particular thing to the extent that I'll see another thing that I'm interested in and think, "No, that's not what I'm interested in." And then eventually I'll kind of go over to it was like that with Warhammer and Warhammer 40,000, which is, like the miniatures. When I was in my after the red box D&D moment, I started getting more into miniatures and painting miniatures, painting and kind of yeah. And Warhammer is like a UK thing, so we had quite a lot of access
yeah,
to the miniatures, and I was all about like medieval fantasy battling, and I was kind of intrigued by the 40k models, but I was like, no, that's not my thing. And then of course eventually it was like, actually I think this is quite cool, and then completely went into 40k
yeah,
instead, and like and then became totally obsessed with that and Space Hulk, and like yeah, they
yeah,
sort of like more kind of futuristic kind of yeah, kind of like an awful
yeah.
future that you're kind of existing in. But yeah, yeah, it's something I've come to recognize about myself. My
We convinced ourselves because
yeah,
like for our own good. Like I am pretty sure I would love miniatures, but since they're like so expensive here in Brazil to import anything,
yeah,
I convinced myself that I know I don't like miniatures,
yeah,
because they complicate game. Because if I get into it, I will want to get them, and
yeah. It's
no,
that's a very
I
wise approach. Yeah,
I don't have enough money as I have
I
obsessions,
know.
so
Yeah, yeah, no,
I have to
absolutely.
stop myself in a way.
I can feel myself occasionally getting drawn into Magic the Gathering or something like that. I can see, think, oh,
Oh,
this set's
oh
quite
yeah,
interesting, like, and then I think, no, I have a limit on my wallet,
yeah.
and I'm not
I
gonna
spent
I'm
so
not gonna
much
do
on
that to
Magic
myself. Yeah,
when I was younger, like way more than I should. But yeah, it is fun. Like uh,
yeah,
nowadays, I like those card games that you buy a deck and you can play with the deck, and
yeah,
that's
no,
fine. I just play.
yeah,
You
yeah, no,
mentioned like your work. You talk a lot about these important themes in our contemporary world and thinking about the future, and why do you seek that so much in your work? Like, are you talking to yourself? It is like something that you always worrying about, or are you really trying to send a message to someone out there that might be listening? Because in a way, I always think like it's always about us. Like we always saying something to ourselves in a way. So, but how is that you approach these themes, and why do you uh, your games really reflect some kind of worry, or some kind of you care about this, right? So
yeah,
how
yeah.
this affect the
I
rest of your life too?
yeah, yeah. I think it's maybe it's partly wanting to show that there is a space for hope about the future. I don't know what has this coincided with me being a father and kind of not wanting to feel like this is the end, that life will continue, and we have to find ways
Do
through the
you do you
very
though
difficult.
sometimes do you though have those feelings that yeah it's over sometimes? Because I like to be hopeful, but sometimes I think yeah it's we have 10 years stops,
It's not
and
it's
let's enjoy
yeah, I
it
mean,
while it lasts.
yeah, there are definitely moments where I'm thinking this is not looking good. I mean, I've even made a piece of work called The End of the World, which is looking looking at kind of different sorts of endings. I was looking at like the end of a an MMO, Asheron's Call. Do you know the game Asheron's Call? It was a
No,
massively multiplayer online game that lasted. It was live for about, I think, 18 years. um
wow,
it was from like 2000 to 2017, so 17 years. And it's yeah, it had a whole kind of online community in it, but eventually like the servers weren't paying their way, so they shut it down. But right at the end, like everyone, there was still lots of people playing, and they kind of all gathered in this central courtyard and kind of to be together while the world ended, because it's like an
Wow.
end of
Very
a.
poetic. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. I thought this is so. It was that kind of poetic moment, maybe, and it was at the time that like Trump was taking over and Brexit had just happened, and
How fitting.
I was thinking about, yeah, kind of like the end of like this feeling of grief that I'm feeling about like geopolitical events is kind of similar to this grief about this virtual space. And then I was having all sorts of it, like my dad had just been diagnosed with Parkinson's, so he was like really kind of thinking about yeah, mortality, and of course I was too. It changes your perspective on
Yeah,
things having these
for sure.
sorts of events. So it's kind of mixing all of those things together. So yeah, so after that I felt like I really wanted to make something that was hopeful, and that's when I made my first role-playing game, which was The World After. And it was a way of trying to channel a lot of the reading that I've been doing around, like Ursula Le Guin and Octavia Butler and stuff, into that kind of world that they were creating, kind of feminist sci-fi, um, and a kind of, yeah, kind of hopeful future, or kind of possibilities of different ways of doing things,
Yeah.
into and kind of channel that into a role-playing game. And yeah, so I kind of basically did my heartbreaker, tried to remake D&D, without alignment, without kind of yeah, like biological determinism, or a lot of the kind of issues that are just there baked into the kind of the basic lore of D&D. And yeah, I kind of see that game as like a glorious failure. It was like, it kind of, it's kind of a cool book, but it's like, I yeah, kind of. And then in many ways I've been kind of remaking it since then, like Lost Eons is like another version of it, and Eco Mofos is another version of it in a way. But
But what do you call a failure? Like a cool failure? Right?
I
Why do
call it
you
an
say it's a failure?
artwork. Like, cool failures are artworks. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's you're trying to make something, but you acknowledge it's not, it's not like this kind of perfectly honed machine, but it's an idea that
It's
you've put into the world.
nothing is right.
Yeah,
Nothing is.
nothing's a total failure, no,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's not.
yeah.
I always look at my work once I've done it and think, yeah, I like it, but that could have been better, and this could have been better, and maybe I should
Oh
have
yeah.
approached that. You know,
Well, we are terrible with ourselves,
yeah,
right? I mean, we are probably our worst critics,
yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. And when we get pissed with someone criticizing your work, sometimes it's just like, no, only I can say that about my work. In no way. Fuck you, you're not me. So,
Yeah,
so,
I guess I mean, for yeah, I think that's like one of the benefits of art school is that you have so much of that people really like are totally unimpressed by everything you do, that you develop quite a strong, a thick skin
yeah,
against all sorts of criticism, and you
that is
sort of,
true.
get a sense of like, yeah, cool. You're not digging it, fine. Like I'll just get on with my own thing,
Yeah, yeah,
like, sometimes people have a point, and that's valid, but it's like, yeah,
yeah,
you can't take it personally, because like you don't know the context of what
yeah. Yeah,
people are
well,
kind
I was just talking about this. Like I was watching uh this game design course on masterclass with Will Wright, and he talks about how in developing gaming groups, like development groups, the artists are really usually just very fine with criticism because they went to art school and that's very common there. But like if you go and criticize and ask to correct something for a programmer, they're like
of.
sudden like, no, this is my code, something like this. And
Yeah,
people have to be more comfortable with because we all
yeah.
make mistakes, right? And I know
Absolutely.
it's hard to do with criticism. One of the rules that I'm repeating here again is like, uh, kind of accept criticism from people who do accept advice from, if you seek that person for advice, you do accept their criticism. But
Yeah,
sometimes, those strangers on internet going to say shitty things about you, and usually the best practice I would say is ignore. But sometimes they would say something and would suggest some corrections, and then usually you should ignore the correction. You look at the problem, and they
yeah,
usually they're not, most of them are not game designers, so their
yeah.
solution is
Not
nothing
great.
there. But like the problem might be something, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, no, absolutely. I yeah, I quite like getting engaged in on the Ken Discord because yeah, Yoha Geil has a brilliant Discord for Ken, and
Oh yeah.
I like just kind of keeping an eye on the questions there because it's so funny because it's just like there's particular things that new players like always bring up, and it's always the same, and it's like, and quite often they'll come with some sort of suggestion as to how it could be different. And you just think, no, don't worry about how it should be different. It's just it's kind of just more like getting your head around a particular difference from kind of conventional D&D.
Yeah.
It's often to do with like the way that hit points work or something like that, and it's just that confusion of similar terminology that is sort of baked into to
Yeah,
what
but it's kind of
download and
plays
stuff.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, same name, different stuff. Like you just, yeah, you learn that difference. But um
Yeah.
yeah.
And David, like since you work with videos and you like design games, uh, have you ever thought about making an RPG that delves into making videos or mixing up your two art forms in a way?
Oh wow. Yeah, that's a great idea. I haven't
Yeah,
thought about that. Yeah, I mean, I guess
because now
so-
everybody has a video camera on their phones, right? So
yeah,
it
that's true. Yeah,
could very well be integrated in something.
that'd be so cool. Like a solo game where you're creating a video through prompts or something. Like it
Yeah.
would work really well like that. Um I'm kind of I'm kind of tinkering with this kind of silly little game at the moment, like a solo game. It's not a video, but it's kind of obviously telling a sort of narrative around it mostly came from um there was some cool like pictures that were put up on by a indie artist I'm just trying to called she her handle is Carly Draws on
Hmm.
I can't remember what her Twitter handle is, but um and yeah, it just inspired in me like I really wanted to make like an elite type. Do you know the game Elite? The really old video game where you trade goods between different space stations, and it was kind of
Uh,
notorious for having a really difficult docking mechanism. So you'd fly like like literally 30 minutes to an hour to the next space station, and then you'd have to dock by
and you crash
aligning
them.
your ship with the docking kind of port, which is going round and round. So if you got the timing wrong, like you just crash and like that whole hour would be completely wasted and you have to start the game again.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was notorious for that. But it was a really fun, like kind of totally enormous world where you have kind of whole set of goods like from food to mechanics through to like narcotics and stuff. So it's like, and if you have narcotics,
Wow.
the police come after you. It's basically, yeah, it's like kind of prototype for like Grand Theft Auto and stuff. But this was made in like 1980. I don't know, in the 1980s, a long time ago on the BBC Micro. But anyway, I wanted and her Carly's drawings made me really think, oh, I'd love to make a game out of that. And so I started working on like a solo game where you're and then I started thinking about it some more. It became like, oh yeah, what if it's like deep space mother truckers? So like, so you're you're a car, so you're moving cargo between places, but you've also got a kid to look after. And I kind of instantly realized, oh god, I'm thinking about like kind of losing the children from the house in a way. So it's like thinking about both gig economy, but also like kind of that feeling of yeah, looking after a child and then having this precious cargo that you have to deal with, but then kind of adding in kind of ideas of kind of capitalism and debt and all of that kind of nastiness. So anyway, it was kind of a fun,
Yeah.
got off on a weird tangent here, but that's kind of how my ideas come through. So maybe now you've kind of planted that seed. I might have to do it,
I'm glad.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
And
that may
David,
start today. Yeah. Go on.
the theme of the podcast is the weird, and I'll
Yeah.
always ask you. So, what is weird for you, and how do you seek it? Both in your work as a game designer, as an artist, and even in your life in general. Like, do you seek weird experiences and places or?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think for me, and weird has all sorts of connotations around sort of weird fantasy, like that kind of almost genre specific thing. But for me, weird is just like not normal. It's sort of, I guess for me, it's like the um what's that South American not hyperrealism. It's when there's South American authors were called I've completely forgotten the
Jorge
name.
Luis Borges? Jorge
No,
Luis
not
Borges?
I love Borges, but that's no, not hyperrealism, but like when things are natural, but then they become like I don't know, like someone will be hanging washing in the backyard, and then the washing will turn into birds that start flying off, sort of thing. It's like, um, oh, no, I've completely forgotten the term. But anyway, like for me, it's trying to find the extraordinary in the everyday is what I find. It's that kind of weirdness that I find really exciting and interesting. Those sorts of moments when you're in mundane life, but it feels like you could be inside a movie, or there could be a fiction going on that's kind of weird. I guess
Yeah,
it's kind of analogous to like that the experience of taking some sort of psychedelic drug but without the drugs. so so it's just like um the thing that you catch out the corner of your eye, and then it kind of you know are you scared about it or are you curious about it, and it's that kind of the weird is all around us, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. It's just and
yeah,
it's allowing yourself to look for it. I think how I like my weird in games is I like kind of to set up a sense of both seeing the normal as strange. So, say in something like Eco Mofos, it's seeing our present as this kind of weird past that you're exploring and investigating, and kind of finding a USB stick, and it's this strange relic that is something to be explored. Um, but it's also kind of setting up a kind of a mundane space, like kind of you're kind of trudging through the wilderness and it's muddy and things are a bit boring, and then you see this extraordinary like
yeah,
psychedelic haze on in the distance, and what could that be? It's like creating that sense of wonder and awe in a kind of quite mundane space, because I think when you have like the overload of weird,
yeah,
which I guess is Gonzo, it's like where everything is weird. Like there's
yeah.
a
But
chipmunk wearing sunglasses,
yeah,
and there's
but now
like
to mention that, I think about this, like everything is weird and it seems to be weird, but there is a way to make that weird again. It's like everything is weird, but but the adventure is about mundane things this moon is all weird it has aliens and wizards and everybody but the adventure is you have to deliver this pizza
yeah,
and
yeah,
people are
yeah.
like
Oh, that's
very
perfect.
hungry and you have time to to deliver this, and that can be so much fun too, like you
Yeah,
mentioned
that's right.
seeing the normal in the weird and the
Yeah,
weird in the normal, and it's
yeah,
kind of this circle and that gave me like really great idea. Let's make like a game about a weird city. Like everybody is weird. Like, but the adventure is like, let's go to the movies and there's someone that can't stop talking there. And
Yeah, yeah,
how do you deal with that? And that
yeah,
person talking has like seven mouths. So two of them are willing to shut up, but the rest, you know, don't, and you have to do things for them. I don't know. It can be the super weird can be turned into mundane and weird again, right?
oh,
And that
totally. Yeah,
and
no, that's
because of what you said, it's made me think about that, and I like
yeah,
this idea a lot. So thank you.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's great. Yeah, the term I was just struggling for is just re-emerged in my mind, which is magical realism, which is it's
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
it's that kind of that whole movement that was in literature. I think it was in like the 70s, 80s or something. But anyway, yeah, I'm no expert on it. But yeah, but in terms of like, I love my games weird. I mean, I talked about ZXU stuff, but maybe also like Luke Gearing's writing, where like it's more kind of body horror orientated. But I just love when there's a sense of kind of the visceral weird. So it's like a weird that you can actually almost feel and like kind of live through the text. And then like in things that I read, like yeah, like um House on the Borderland and the what is it, the Nightland, and yeah, just I love weird literature and
Yeah.
kind of yeah, and I guess and sci-fi and stuff like that. Philip K. Dick, kind of stories, kind of anything that makes you kind of think outside of yeah, rethink who you are in many ways. Like I think that's what's
Yeah.
amazing about like quite a lot of kind of more strange sci-fi is it reconfiguring your conception of what like language might be or what identity might be, what kind of what reality is, even like that,
Yeah.
all of those things I just really enjoy.
It's as you talk about this, identity and reality and rethinking all that. Uh, would you say did you did you change a lot through life? Like, do you see yourself, learning and growing, and then seeing importance of art and the things that you read in this, transformation in a way?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all kind of transform at various moments. I think we're different people with different people. So we're kind of we reinvent ourselves all the time, but then have these kind of more meta transformations as we change roles in terms of like what we're doing, how we see ourselves in the world. Um,
But do you see yourself taking a more active role in this, like seeking some
seeking to
changes,
be
or
different.
you
Yeah.
like things just happen and for you? Like, do you have you ever had a moment like you thought, yeah, I need to change in a way. I need to learn about this or that, or
Oh yeah, yeah. So like, I know. I think the fundamental one was probably like the birth of my first child, which is pretty much 16
oh
years ago.
yeah,
Like that moment where you realize you're not the most important person in the world anymore. Like, like it's quite a fundamental shift as kind of as a
yeah,
person. But then I think before that, just things like um, wanting to pursue impossible dreams, like to become like a kung fu master or something. And then so I went to study kung fu at a Shaolin temple in North London for a few
wow,
years. It was just like I would go 2-3 times a week, and it was a temple set up by one of the monks from the Shaolin temple in China. Like they were trying to bring Chinese culture to the UK, but eventually I realized that it was a kind of impossible dream because I didn't quite have the mindset, the physique to kind of see it through. Maybe I did. Maybe I just like lost the impetus, but I was really obsessed for
yeah.
a while, like, and same with kind of wanting to become a rapper. Like, I really thought that maybe I could kind of write my own rhymes and stuff, and tried to make that work, and it really didn't. Like, so,
But
um,
it is fun to explore this, and like
yeah,
you
no,
learn things
absolutely,
that
yeah.
you
I'm
could
just
probably
I'm just
use.
thinking of these kind
Some,
of real moments where I've tried to
yeah,
choose and I think the kind of more organic changes have probably stuck
yeah.
more. Um, I'm a big part of my life has been video games, and I think, inside those games you're often choosing a character to be, and they kind of both often reflect yourself, but also maybe they kind of change yourself as well. There's kind of a two-way situation going on there. As you go through their story, how much of me has become
Do
Cloud or
you
something. Yeah.
remember any particular game that's changed you in a way, or made an
Yeah.
impact and an experience, and you maybe learned something from it?
I think really, it's really kind of corny to say, but like Final Fantasy VII for me was like a massive learning process. Both
Oh,
in terms
I
of
I cried like a baby when Iris died.
yeah, me too.
I did.
Yeah.
It's my favorite Final Fantasy game. I
Oh,
love Final Fantasy
that's
Seven. Yeah.
that's lovely to hear, because I feel probably the same as you. I have a kind of like, after I played that, I kind of I went back and actually got like a imported Super Nintendo and stuff, so that I could play things like Final Fantasy 5 and 6, and then I played, and played 8 and 9, and like, yeah, but and I kind of have a really soft spot for 5, just because of like the job system and stuff. But in terms of like emotional like punch, I think 6 is
Mm.
amazing, but I think it's because it was the first time that a video game had really done that to me, that just such a
Yeah,
significant moment, like to feel that thing of like, yeah, you don't get another chance at this. This is what's happened. Like, you've nurtured this character all the way through Eris, like,
yeah.
the potential love of your life, like like, you're trying to make up your mind between Tifa and Eris, and like, like, and then she dies, and like, the pearl drops, and it's like, it just feels like there's a real desolation there, which I don't think I've ever quite experienced again. And, in some ways, I think I kind of have kept playing games to try and feel that again, like to try and kind of find that
That's
moment. I think
true.
that's quite common in things that I love. It's like you have that really intense moment with a particular
And
thing,
there
and then you search for
those
it again, don't you? Yeah.
those themes you aborde too, like the environment, the future, the
Mm.
apocalypse, what comes before, and kind of
Yeah.
ties it all down too. So it's very
Yeah.
interesting. You mentioned
Yeah. No, it's
Final
it's
Fantasy
really,
Seven.
yeah, it's really like super foundational for me, like more so than
Yeah.
I'd like to admit, probably. Like just, ideas of fighting against the corporation, and even but
Yes,
what
yes.
brought me into it was, well, what
I want
made
to
me,
play this again.
yes, so good. I think I almost feel like, is there, I haven't seen a TTRPG that really taps into that particular kind of aesthetic and moment, which, yeah, it's something I've been kind of pondering. I'm sure there's loads out there, but it's really tempting to try and kind of
Yeah,
engage
I
with that
love
space.
the material system,
Oh my god, yeah.
evolving. Yeah, it's great.
It's so it's so
Yeah,
good. Um,
I dream about making something about this. Like I have this idea, because I like sword and sorcery games,
yeah,
but I
yeah.
also changing like to sword and sorcery, star and sorcery. Now, stone and sorcery, and I have the idea about sea and sorcery, but then, like mixing Moana with Final Fantasy VII, and
Oh,
pirates
amazing.
and stuff.
Yeah, that's
And
so
because
good.
the stone from the goddess, but it's also materia, and you can use
Mm.
spells. And there's this corporation that is stealing all the stones to use power, and mixing it out up, and with pirates too, because who doesn't
Oh, I
like
love that.
pirates, right?
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
w Yeah, I actually really liked the Zelda, Wind Waker, is that's the sailing the sailing pirates version of Link, and, yeah, it'd be really fun to kind of mix all that together, like seafaring,
yeah,
and yeah, and there's something about the kind of steampunkness of it, like it makes sense with kind of going across oceans and all that.
Yeah,
But yeah, what I was just thinking about how, along with the whole Ares thing, you have this amazing conceit at the center of Final Fantasy VII, which is that you're effectively like you realize that you're on a total railroad for the first two discs. Is like you're going from place to place, and there's kind of a sense of a sort of freedom, but really you have to do everything in order. And then
yeah,
you get to this point with Aerith, like where Aerith dies, and Sephiroth kind of reveals that he's been puppeteering you, and kind of like you're just a kind of like a cipher, like you don't actually have your own identity, and um and you realize that that's you, the player. You, the player, have been following his plan this whole time, and there was nothing you could do about it. You were there's this instant kind of confusion between player and avatar, kind of, which is amplified, I think, by that kind of like extreme sadness that you're feeling at that moment,
yeah,
which you're kind of, and you're self-aware that like, why am I feeling sad about a video game? But it's like, kind of, but it all plays together like in such an intense way. I mean, yeah,
yeah. Very well made, very well designed. I
yeah,
would say. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's something that of course I talk about real rights said that's one of the great things about games, different from any other media, is that when we feel emotions to movies and literature, it's kind of through empathy because this has happened to someone and we feel
mm,
this kind of empathy. But when it happens in a game, it's like you did it.
yeah,
The agent, you had agency. You clicked there. You did all the dirty things Sephiroth set you up to do. You did it.
yeah.
You're responsible for Ares kind of getting there. So
No, exactly. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
very
You
emotions,
could have
very strong, right?
exactly. Yeah, you could have chosen not to finish the game, and she'd still be alive. So,
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it doesn't have options, but it is you like following like this
yeah.
path in a way. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I often find myself like towards the end of games, like not going to the final boss or something, just so I can live in that world for a bit longer. I found
that's
that
true.
especially in
Yeah.
like Zelda Ocarina of Time or something like that. Like I
Oh
would just
yeah.
do every single side quest so that I didn't like, because I knew that as soon as it was
Yeah.
finished, I wouldn't have that impetus to go back and play it again. So I just wanted
That's
to
true.
keep it
Yeah.
going, you know.
And games now have so much stuff to do, like
Yeah,
playing, this Lego series. Like we have the Lego Star Wars. Like you do the movies, it's like it's just a very small percentage of the things you can do in the universe in the game, and
yeah, yeah, no, that's
it's
right.
incredible. Yeah.
Hello weirdos, this is Diogo Nogueira and I'm back with a word from our sponsors. Me! I just released a new game called Kosmosaurs, in which you play a dinosaur space ranger who protects the galaxy from evil threats such as slime bankers, undead pirates, and Kosmosaurs from a void dimension. It's a game with a runes light system inspired by Forged in the Dark and Lasers and Feelings. It comes with a bunch of tables for you to generate content for it. If you know my games, they're really easy to play and they have tools to help you improvise and play with low prep. It's an ideal game for one-shots, short campaigns, and introducing new people to the hobby, and it's a really perfect family game. I play with my kids all the time. It's a game inspired by Saturday morning cartoons. It's really well illustrated by Lukas Kowalski from Poland, and with a great layout by Guilherme Gontijo. It's a really fun game. You should check it out on DriveThruRPG, itch.io, or exclusively in print on exaltedfuneral.com. I have many other games there, check them out. All the links are in the show notes, so click there. And let's get back to Weird with our chat.
David, do you have any kind of creative ritual that you partake when you go either write or work on your art or work on your videos, like to help you get into to the moods of your art?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm trying to think. I mean, I think if there's any ritual, it's like I need to have I need to have a moment. Like I need to sit down and kind of just be like, right. I'm doing it. You know, if there's any distractions, like I don't know, there's some washing up needs doing, or like
Mm,
then I find it really difficult to just do the thing. I need to either be away from all of that or like have it done. Like so, and kind of
I
feel
see.
like, yeah, I
Do you
find
do you
it.
work at home or do you work
Um,
like in a
I
studio or?
I have a studio, which is
Oh,
about
that's easier to be away
half
from
hour
laundry
walk.
in a
Yeah,
studio.
exactly. That's
Yeah,
why I really like it there. But at the same time, like I'm not able to get there every day, and
yeah,
I do, you know, like I find that I do most of my tabletop role play writing actually like just in little moments on the phone. so
yeah. Oh,
so like, you know,
big
that's what.
time. Like Google Docs. Like when
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
on the
Yeah,
subway, I can
yeah.
write something like a paragraph. Yeah,
I try and use like Obsidian because it's like it does markdown and stuff. But I I do actually write quite a lot because you often have to have an internet connection for that, and it goes in and out on the tube and things. It's really annoying. So I tend to actually write in like just my phone notes and then kind of transfer it around. But yeah,
yeah.
it's just like it's often just tiny little bits of writing, but they kind of come together into
Oh yeah.
the thing, you know, it's a great way of like writing a really long table or something, like
It is. Like
just
one one
write a few
one page
entries.
a day. One page
Yeah,
a day will give you a novel by the
yeah,
end of the year. So,
yeah,
you
no,
know,
absolutely.
it's consistency. Like it's something I always say here too. Consistency is better than intensity, right? If you can write just a little bit every day, it's better than sitting down one day and spending 8 hours, and then
Yeah,
8 weeks later you sit down, you forgot everything you wrote, so you have to read it again. So
yeah,
better to just a little bit every day, right?
yes, live in that place. Yeah, yeah, and then for the actual design bit where I'm kind of putting all the graphics together, or you know, working in publisher or something, then you know that means like sitting down, and often it'll just be like a day or two of just putting stuff together, and then coming back when I have moments to kind of tinker with things. Yeah, once it's all kind of whacked together, and the thing I'm working on right now, which is the Eco Mofos book, is just like it's just yeah, it's 166 pages. It just feels like too much to deal with, so I kind of just concentrate on little bits at a time,
Yeah.
and trying to make it quite a inviting book. So um, it kind of yeah it's using different columns of text so that some of it's for kind of meta narrative and some of it's more for you know the main rules and stuff, so it kind of so it's kind of playing
Yeah.
off each other, try and give it different voices and stuff. Mm.
And do you work on it like every day, or do you alternate working on the design part with other kind of creative work? How do you
Yeah,
divide the time you work with if your visual art and your tabletop RPG stuff?
yeah, it's pretty, I'm not very methodical, so like sometimes it'll I guess I think I would define my working practice best as like obsessional. So I'll get really into one thing and just like get really deep
Get
into
into
that.
it, yeah,
Just working, yeah, work on
and
that one
focus on
thing
only that.
for the whole day, and then the next day I might do something. I'd do a whole different thing, like um and a lot of my day job being an artist is admin, so it's kind of writing emails, it's having meetings with people, it's like you know like people think it's
Yeah,
like making the art, but actually that's quite a small part of like of
yeah,
running it as a career. It's mostly like kind of trying to buy the time to make the work. So you're kind of trying to find funding, you're trying to find venues that might be interested in the thing. Sometimes you're approached by people, they kind of ask you for a proposal, so you have to write that. Like it just yeah,
yeah.
it's often a lot of like just pontificating around the
And that's
practice.
work too. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's a
it's
lot
a
of
lot of
work
yeah,
too. Yeah.
it's the work, and then the fun bit, which is making the actual like videos or whatever. Like, I mean, that
Do
can
do you
be
find it
time
draining?
consuming.
Do you find this part of the work draining? Because for me, I love, creating and making the book and illustrating and writing, and but the times I try to be a publisher and do this more
Yeah.
administrative work, and I hate it.
Yeah,
I
I find
do.
it I do find it really difficult, and I kind of resent it really. I
Yeah.
kind of wish that
Like
it
I
was
wish I
like,
had an agent, like people
yeah,
like
just sort of
artists have
stuff like,
agents. Like we should
yeah.
have we should earn more to be able to pay an agent to do this because I hate it.
This is the fundamental problem. We're not earning enough to kind
Yeah,
of do to outsource these things that get in the way of just getting on with the writing or the designing or the video
yeah.
making, like the things that we want to do. But it's it's I've catch myself complaining, and then it's like, well, you are basically having a life where you're doing what you want to
Oh
do.
yeah. Oh
So
yeah. Oh
really
yeah.
should not complain. Like, so,
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
but
It's only
yeah,
natural. Like when we
yeah,
complain and then we stop. I shouldn't be complaining, but
yeah.
it's just something. Yeah.
It's just, yeah,
Sometimes.
it's only human, isn't it? You kind of
Yeah.
deal with the life that
Yeah.
you're
We.
dealing with. Yeah,
Yeah. I think I sometimes I think we have to create problems because otherwise we
yeah. I think you're right there.
yeah,
Yeah,
we have like the more we solve problems, the smallest the problems get, but the
yeah,
bigger deal we make out of it in a way, right?
yeah, yeah.
Because
It's like that thing that they say: if you want something done, give the thing you need done to a busy person, because busy people will just like it'll just be another thing that they're doing. Whereas like for someone who this thing would be the only thing that they had to get done,
uh,
it would like be like, oh god, like
yeah,
I've got to
and,
make
and,
sure I
and-
do it right,
yeah. In a way, it's something like if you get this done, we won't have anything, and we kind of like, yeah. So what do I do now if I don't have a problem?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. So you kind of
yeah,
eke it out a bit, and it becomes
yeah.
like a whole thing to go to
We
the
need our
post office.
problems in a way. In a way, it's
Yeah,
kind of
no, I find it so hard to
yeah,
go to the post office. So that's probably the same. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. It's like
yeah.
just can't handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you identify any place you draw a lot of ideas from? Like probably we talk about Final Fantasy VII, like there's place you something
Yeah.
inspires you because for me it's like the cartoons and movies and comics from my childhood was kind of my refuge
Yeah.
from my life, and then what do you say it's like yours? Like there's anything besides Final Fantasy VII something like because that was, as you said, like your first experience with that, and for me it was too like Final Fantasy VII was also, like in my early teenage years, so it's made an impact for me. It's one of the games I played too. So, do you identify any period of time or any area of entertainment or somewhere you draw a lot from?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is from books and movies, but especially ones that, yeah, probably I was like that I experienced during that intense period of teenage life. I think a lot of people are like heavily live inside their teenage world. Look at our like music tastes and stuff. They just kind of it
Yeah,
just kind of
people
continues.
say like your music taste is when you're 16 and
Yeah,
it
yeah,
stays
it kind
that
of,
way for
yeah, all of so for me, it's things like anime, like Akira, things like that, and then movies like Alien and Aliens, like those were things that I watched a lot, and Terminator. So and then in a way, like a lot, I got into the literature. So like yeah, the kind of science fiction and stuff much later than. So in a way, it's like kind of recreating that feeling of watching those movies back when I didn't have any kind of other reference for them. Um, oh yeah, and of course, like in a way, the whole aesthetic of things like 2000 AD, which is a comic book in the UK. It's where Judge Dredd comes from, and lots
yeah,
of other characters. But it has this real like British kind of grimy idea of the future. It's obviously heavy satire, but kind of in some ways has become beyond satire, and it just becomes the thing that it's talking like the thing that it's satirizing. It's kind of a glorification of fascism in some ways, but like a lot of that kind of imagery from, I don't know, like Strontium Dog and Rogue Trooper and um all the Games Workshop stuff, like yeah, 40k Rogue Trader, like that kind of really, the stuff that borders between something commodified and something that's almost like a homebrew kind of adolescent project, which is basically what a lot of that early Warhammer stuff is like. That's what really gets me interested, is like things that still have that rawness to them. I guess you couldn't really count like Aliens in that, but I think Alien in some ways you can. It's like, this is taking a lot of kind of leftover sci-fi junk, I think, was what created the set, and then it was kind of, yeah, some of it was left over from, I think, from, I'm probably getting all my facts wrong here, but it definitely had a relationship to Jodorowsky's Dune, the Dune that never happened, that they spent lots of money on kind of creating, and then kind of Ridley Scott went in, and there was like all this stuff that you could kind of recycle into this new film, and kind
Yeah.
of so it has this kind of like, and there's a real handmade sense, or everything made out of models and stuff. I love that in, in Blade Runner too, like those cityscapes made out of just weird silhouettes and stuff.
Yeah,
um
the early Star Wars movies with all
yeah,
the
yeah, exactly, like all
animation.
that kind of that
And I
that's
can't understand why they won't sell it to us like original version. Just
yeah, I
they
know,
would make
so much money,
millions of dollars,
I
but they
know,
don't. They won't sell it. I don't know why.
no,
Yeah,
no, they refuse.
yeah.
um
The
so
toys, the yeah,
yeah, so it's kind of, yeah, that's kind of the place that I look for in terms of like aesthetics and inspiration. Like, if I'm just kind of trying to make up a short little, like, I was involved in this Kickstarter for Outer Rim Outright Uprising, which is a kind of mothership module thing, and really, really cool, like, compilation, great designers in it, organized by Ico
yeah,
from Bay. And and within that, I was trying to create a little module around faster than light travel and kind of weird stuff that could happen, and I could feel that I was just channeling episodes of
Mhm.
Star Trek and like bits, little bits from Star Wars, or like yeah, kind of little scenes from Alien into all that writing. Like, it's just that's where I
yeah,
live, in the kind of sci-fi space, So
yeah. And it's great. And then would you say like a phrase that I love is that plagiarism is like stealing from one person, and originality is stealing like from 10 or 20. Like you just mix them all together, and nobody
yeah,
knows, right?
yeah, it's yeah. I mean, for me,
I
creativity
mean,
is
we always
collage.
yeah, we always infuse with our own stuff and like our own baggage,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
everything,
yeah, yeah.
all
It's
art
just,
is collaborative in a way, right?
oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're collaborating with the kind of the ideas of the past, and you're kind of putting your ideas into the
The
ideas of the future.
culture in
Like,
general, yeah,
yeah, it's kind of,
yeah,
it's creating that continuum of things being constantly recycled and redefined, and yeah, nothing comes from nothing,
yeah,
so just sometimes it's more obvious, and sometimes it's like it's really,
yeah,
it's more kind of
yeah.
hidden, or you just don't know the reference. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And besides that, do you have any artist or creator, musician or anyone that kind of taught you something, or like use as a model for the way they approach their work, or the way they position themselves in their art space? Is there like any creator that inspires you, and it's kind of
Yeah,
a
yeah,
role model to you in a way?
I and so many, but for me, I'm for a very long time, a rapper called KRS One was like my my model, not because I thought I could be him or anything, but just he has he
Who?
wrote
Sorry.
he's called KRS-One. Uh,
Oh, okay.
so like it's sometimes it's a acronym for knowledge reigns supreme over nearly everyone, but like it was just his tag, like. And he
Hmm.
wrote he wrote early on in his career, he wrote a song called Poetry, which is saying hip hop isn't just like people talking, it's not just like, you know, this weird thing that people are doing, it's actually poetry. Like, and it's a song on an album that's basically like the first hardcore gangster rap, basically. But it's just funny that he kind of includes it, this song about poetry, and like how all of this is fiction. You know, we're talking about fictions.
Yeah.
um, and then later on in his career, he did a track called Health, Wealth, Self. So it's saying like all you need in life is your health, some, you know, wealth, as in being able to look after yourself, and knowledge of yourself. So know it, yeah, not trying to be anyone else, but just be yourself in this place.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
those, yeah, it's a great track, and on a good album. And I just, yeah, and on top of that, I mean, people like, I really like people who use a kind of a mainstream space and manages to subvert it and bring their own flavor to it. So someone like Hideo Kojima, so making like Metal Gear Solid, and kind of taking this idea of like a stealth espionage thing and then making it about kind of gene manipulation and ideas of almost eugenics. And yeah, it's a really kind of complex conspiracy thing. And then he kind of exploded from that into making all these absolutely crazy like games that probably just don't make any sense, but it's just like amazing that they've been made in a way through this system. And the same with I don't know, like Miyazaki, like films like yeah,
Yeah.
Spirited Away, and um yeah, My Neighbor Totoro, like all these films which are, you know, they're made for mainstream entertainment, but they also kind of hold like childlike wonder. They hold like ideas about what it is to be a person and what memory is, and yeah, all of these things. And like to be able to transmit those sorts of very complex ideas into a kind of a mainstream space, I think is really incredible. Um,
Yeah. They are
yeah,
very philosophical in a way in
yeah, no,
some
totally.
of the
Yeah, I
themes
think
and
that's
things
that's
they.
what I like when you kind of
Yeah.
get these notes of philosophy inside things that are kind of very easily digestible. So,
Yeah.
you know, I don't mind like hardcore philosophy by itself, but I feel like that's very much like a a personal, like, you know, I do that by, I read that stuff by myself and kind of
Yeah.
try and struggle with and understand like the writings of Lacan or something. But
Yeah.
then like to see some of those ideas put into a space where, I don't know, my kids could understand it or something,
Yeah.
that just makes
More
it,
practical, more about
yeah,
life
I
in
love I
general.
love
Like,
I love that mix. And I guess that's kind of the tone that I always try and get into my game making, is to try and make it not for it to be too like, I don't know, self-absorbed, that it actually, it works as something that's fun, but it also helps think about things. So that's, yeah, that's kind of the stuff that I really admire. Mm.
yeah. And what did you say is like the weird mark you leave in your work? Like, is there something like your voice or something that's even you could identify both in your tabletop role-playing game design work and your visual artist artwork? Do you see any relation, anything that tie them together? Or
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think there's a playfulness with like both um like a mode of speech. Like sometimes I'll let some of the writing in the TTRPGs be quite colloquial or like spontaneous. Um
conversational, right?
yeah, kind of conversational sometimes. And I play with that in some of my videos as well. So there's this kind of sense that I don't know, I've made all sorts of fake YouTube tutorials, so that it's like it feels like it's supposed to be I'm teaching you how to make a video inside of Grand Theft Auto, and then at the end of the video, I show you the video that I was making, and it kind of draws you in, and it kind of uses a different voice, and it kind of has this kind of hypnotic kind of element. It becomes really like meditative and weird, and then kind of
Wow.
as you're watching it, you're kind of remembering that like this is the same voice that was being really kind of colloquial and weird at the beginning. It's sort of like that mixture, and I think um, that's the kind of voice that I try and bring into my or trying to bring more into my writing. It's like yeah, say like in ZXC's writing that really lovely moment where he'll reference something from the modern day, like the I don't know, what is that one? Like like the worst well actually guy that you've ever known or something. That's one of the lines, like well actually on the internet it's like a way of people being really condescending online, and he's talking about like one of these mythical beasts, and kind of drops in this line about that. And yeah, we'll often kind of just have these moments of just yeah, kind of contemporary um casual speech inside kind of something that's quite mythological and kind of weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it makes kind
Yeah.
of that it makes everything more weird somehow,
Yeah.
like
It
because
go
it's not.
back to that thing about making seeing the normal in the weird and the weird in the
Yeah,
normal
yeah,
in a way,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah.
exactly.
Great
So
saying. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm just yeah, I guess I'm trying to work that more into my text. I mean, sometimes I think it's being aware of voice. Like some works, like say like Babel, one of my first solo games, I was really trying to make a very kind of meditative space where you're not kind of quite certain about what reality is, and you're trying to discover the self in some ways, like you're searching around for your true name inside the Tower of Babel, so by collecting Scrabble tiles. But it's
Yeah.
like so but throughout the writing of that, I wanted to keep it really kind of like enigmatic and calm, and kind of like so that it had that kind of consistency. So I think, yeah, I think that awareness of voice is kind of common to all of my stuff in some way.
Yeah. I mean, I think uh, it's something that comes out more easily when we pursue personal projects, right? Because it's something
Yeah.
that we are more interested we can help but infuse it with ourselves, right? And yeah, that's that's why I have way more easier time making stuff for myself and then than for others. But
Yeah, yeah, I get that same thing. Like I can get really into kind of just an idea that makes total sense in my head, but then to kind of write to order or something, which I've done a little bit of, I find much harder. Like kind of trying to get into the headspace of what are we actually trying to achieve here, and like kind of
yeah,
trying to borrow the voice of other people a little bit so that it doesn't stand out too much. It's like yeah, it's a different it's more like an exercise than kind of the pure sort of just outpouring of ideas, which is what uh, my own stuff is, I guess. Yeah.
yeah. And David, what would you say was the weirdest game or a really weird game you played recently that made an impact for you and made you kind of think different ways to game or to make games, or it can be either role playing games, video games, as you say you're
Yeah,
into,
yeah.
or
I mean,
board games or anything.
one game recently. This is complete. I was, I put most of my games on itch.io, and I noticed this video game on there called I think it's Rising Up or something. It was just like on the front page, and it was like it's a like 16-bit video game that you can play in your browser. Um, that starts off as like you're controlling this man in an office, and then like the photocopier isn't working, and then you kind of you tap a bit more and you start smashing the photocopier, and then it turns into like kind of a Street Fighter beating up the car moment with the photocopier. So you're just like smashing
Yeah.
this, and then and then basically you kind of start going on a rampage through the whole office, and eventually end up like fighting against this like the big boss, who just so happens to be like a weird entity from outer space or something. It just like they explode into this like huge
Wow.
weird like black mouth that is kind of, and there's no health bar or anything. You can't die. It's just, but you can just keep, you kind of keep getting hit down, but you keep going, and then like at the end the boss falls through the window.
Very cathartic in a way.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's kind of exactly. It's sort of about kind of our place in kind of corporate life, I guess. But then
Yes.
like yeah, all you can do is like go through this window, and when you go through the window, like you're like jumping out to commit suicide or something, um, it turns into like a flying game, and you realize like you're falling and falling and falling, and then you realize like the keys still do something, and you realize you can kind of pull up and fly around this city. Like remind me of this old Sega game called Nights into Dreams, which is like where you kind of fly around as this weird kind of sprite character. um and it just that whole mixture of like kind of this very kind of cathartic weird, like it's quite an obvious satire about kind of corporate life
Yeah.
and wanting to fight your way out of it, but then kind of turning into this sort of almost transcendent thing where you're kind of flying through the city, and
Yeah.
it's sort of
You're out of there. You're
yeah,
free. You
yeah,
know.
yeah,
That's
exactly. But I
freedom.
just I just love the fact that I kind of came across this game, and it was just like it was just there, and yeah, it was cool. That was really cool. And then yeah, it's another one. I've already talked about Reach of the Roach God, so I shouldn't wax too lyrical about that. Um, but and I keep coming back to obviously Vaults of Varn, which is by Leo Hunt, another beautiful, um, beautifully designed setting and game by UK designer, which was
Yeah.
really really inspirational to Lost Eons, and probably like Eco Mofos as well. Like I can't deny that. Um, Lots of really interesting settings created through tables, and just like
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
injecting that kind
That's
of
a great
lore.
example of
Mm,
that playful setting that
yeah,
has, each region has like a paragraph or two and then
yeah,
tables for you to
yeah,
generate,
exactly. You kind of
story seeds and things that are happening. It's a
create it for
very,
yourself.
it's
Yeah.
like, was one of my reference, to make stuff for Primal Quest. Like, yeah, I'm gonna make it like Vaults of Var, because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, I
incredible.
mean, it's just so yeah. And when I first read Vaults of Varn, it just blew me away. Honestly, it was like just such a different approach, but also so steeped in flavor. Like it just like
Yeah,
every element of it, like it was building on. It built up your idea of what
yeah.
this space was. I was so impressed. I'm kind of
Discovering
on.
the world through play, as you said in the
Yeah,
beginning. Like it's
yeah.
games that you know,
No, it's
as you
great.
play, you get to know the world. You don't have to know it beforehand, right?
And then another one that I've been kind of obsessed with is Wet Grandpa. Have you ever played that? It's actually a
No,
mod.
I do have it here, but yeah,
Yeah, you should play it. It's so good. Like it's
it's by
really
Amy Allen, right?
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's not. Is it Amy Allen?
is it not? Let me see.
Yeah,
I have it here, right here.
I've got it. Yeah, mine's
No, no,
closed.
I have Avi Lockhart.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and it's just
right here. Yeah,
it's a beautiful game, so evocative. Like I'm not, the mechanics I can take or leave, but the actual like the NPCs, the way it builds the world, the way it takes you through different spaces is it's a minor masterpiece. And it gets
yeah.
it kind of goes through all different registers of weird. Like there's that kind of like yeah, kind of 1800s sort of outback America sort of swamp weird. But then there's like this kind of mythological weird that kind of creeps in both during the kind of river journey, but then as you kind of reach the final dungeon, it becomes like, yeah, it gets really kind of almost quasi allegorical. It's like it's yeah, it's properly weird in a good way.
Yeah.
Um,
The art is really
yeah,
something else too. Like
that's
the
great.
the binding of the book, it all sets
Yeah,
up for a very unique experience, right?
yeah, no,
And
exactly.
I
And
have I got it, but I haven't had the chance to sit down and play with it. But now that you're mentioning, the art is really fantastic too, right?
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
all the kind of relationships that are created through between the different NPCs in the village. It's just like, yeah, it's just so nicely put together and
yeah,
evocatively written as well. Um, yeah, but deeply, deeply weird. Like
yeah.
a really, real kind of yeah. I mean, lots of all sorts of spoilers here, but it's like yeah, a kind of deeply um different understanding of what maybe a zombie is or something. Like that's it's great. Kind of like
Right.
a wet zombie. But but yeah,
Nice.
or maybe a wet zombie god. Like yeah, it's kind of a birth of a god kind of narrative in some ways, um, which is always strange. Yeah, it's funny. I often kind of avoid religion in my games, and I've been
Why?
thinking about that. Yeah, I don't know. I think because I was
I
never
think I get into that too much. Like I'm an atheist, but I
right.
there
Yeah,
is always a cult. There is always and I see it usually sometimes they're the villains in my stuff.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. For me, it's often like kind of some sort of corporate entity is like the villain character, and that it's their sort of code and stuff, um, which becomes the evil.
Are you religious? Are you spiritual?
No,
Or are you?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it's impossible not to be touched by Christianity in some way, as
Yeah, I
in
was
kind of
raised
in the
Catholic. Yeah.
Anglosphere. I went to church as part of school, and we'd do prayers and learn the Lord's Prayer and
Oh
all
yeah.
that. So and those stories, the stories of the Old and New Testament, are
I
just
never
part.
read the Bible though, and
Yeah,
I
well,
have no
I've
idea
I've
what's
never
going on
I've
there.
never read it. I guess I've studied bits of it at school, like, they would teach you bits of it,
I
and
wish I did. There's probably some good story there,
yeah, I think
somewhere.
there's I'm pretty certain there's a lot in there. It's,
Yeah.
but, a lot of foundational kind of stories and texts, but
Yeah.
it's not kind of
It's
it's
it's kind
it's
of
it's yeah.
mythology in a way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like a founding mythology for so much of kind of a culture that has dominated kind of quite a lot of cultures in
Yeah.
in the world, for good and ill.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, yeah, Brazil's relationship to Christianity is really interesting. Like, I was in Argentina for 3 months on a residency, and there they had some of the iconography, like is it Jesus? Yeah, lazy Jesus, like the little model. Have you ever seen that? It's like a porcelain figure of the lazy Jesus, and
Lazy Jesus,
um,
I don't know.
yeah, I think
That
it's
is
part of a kind of
the
set
lazy
of
Jesus.
Christianity. I'll see if it's a long time since
I'm
I
googling it now, but
yeah,
I
I
never
wonder.
heard about this. Yeah. Well, Christianity is very big here. I was raised Catholic. I
Yeah,
went to kind of religious school, and
yeah,
now you know Catholicism is very big, but the evangelical churches are getting bigger and bigger and
Yeah,
more influential here.
yeah, yeah. They seem to be getting enormous in America, or have
Yeah,
enormous sway over political events. But
yeah, more than
yeah,
than they should. I think
yeah.
no religion should have any whatsoever influence to the politics. I love that Joe George Carlin says that the government and the church already fucks you up very well alone, and if they mix it together, like we can't escape. So you can't mix them up together. They already do a really good job screwing with us by themselves. Don't put them together, and that's it.
It's very wise. Yeah, I mean, there's that. I Yeah, it's funny. Like the UK, where I live, it's the church and state are sort of mixed up a little bit together.
Yeah,
Like, there are like priests in the House of Lords and things like this, and we don't have that strict separation that they have in, say, France or somewhere, where it's like you can't connect church and state. So it's um,
it is, but it isn't.
yeah,
All
no,
public
absolutely,
buildings have a cross.
absolutely,
And like,
yeah,
what the
yeah.
fuck? It's separate or is it not?
Yeah, exactly. It's very selective.
Yeah,
They're very, very harsh on
it's separate,
burgers.
but not really.
Yeah, yeah. Harsh on symbols of Muslim life, but not so harsh on symbols of Christian life. So
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, it's it's that's a whole different debate. But yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
um, but I
But
think,
what about the spirituality? I mean,
yeah,
religion. I have this natural distrust for religion, but spirituality. Depending, it can have an impact on your life. Do you feel like this? Do you believe in God? Do you have any metaphysical belief in something?
I don't believe in God, but I do believe in human connection, and that is somehow, it forms a kind of meta consciousness that we're all a part of in a way. So that's my, I guess, it's a kind of woolly philosophy, closely aligned probably to like the force and things like this, like this
Yeah,
idea that that
we are
that
all God in a way. Like we are
yeah,
all
that things are
experiencing
connected.
this.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
are all God, and we are all not God, and we're all. It's and that there's a kind of oneness in the universe that kind of flows through us all. Like, yeah, no, I think there's certain like evidence for that in terms of physics and biology,
oh
um
yeah.
and it's sort of, yeah, it just makes sense that things are connected, things that you do have effects on the world, and
Oh yeah.
all, I guess I feel like all we can do is try and lean into that and kind of follow those waves and try and move them in the directions that we want them to,
Yeah.
rather than kind of those other ways. So it's trying to, yeah. So I guess it's not terribly spiritual, but it's like, it's a philosophy of being, maybe.
Yeah. And there's two things. And one that there is this. I love comedy, so I keep remembering these things that I find funny. And there was uh, one of wishes in a cartoon, I think, and the guy asked for knowledge of everything. And oh, now that you have knowledge of everything, tell us. And he kind of says, so no, everything is either like a macro version or a micro version of something else. Like the universe, the stars, like it seems like the atom, and like the society seems like a
Yeah,
living organism. So everything is just a miniature or a macro version of something else. Like everything is kind of the same in a way. Like, and that's something of the things I have of this oneness, right? Like it's you see like a pattern that repeats, like in life in general, in behavior, in way, even the way art and games work in a way, right?
mm,
Uh, it's weird. Like I am an atheist, but sometimes it does feels kind of connected in a way. And I
Yeah, I
think
think
it has a lot to do with how you're willing to see the world, right? That theory that people say, oh, the universe conspires. Of course, it doesn't, right? Of course, you
yeah.
know, it doesn't conspire. You're not that important, right? Uh,
Yeah.
but when you are connected to, you know, some way of seeing the world, or your your disposition is in a way, it's easier for you to pay attention on the stuff that vibes with that, right? So
Yeah, no,
it's
I
not
think
that the universe is conspiring, but you're just more attentive to this kind of things, and it seems like everything is working away because you're more attentive to this kind of thing. But if
yeah,
you're already negative, you'll be more attentive to the things that will go out of the way. Nothing is changing; everything is the
yeah.
same, but the way we're approaching it changes everything, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's what we're ready to see, isn't it? It's what we're ready to kind of
Yeah,
become a part
yeah.
of at that moment, and so,
It's like when you
um,
break your arm, you see a lot of people with broken arms on the street. Like, oh, everybody is like has a broken arm. Like I
yeah,
remember when my wife, got pregnant. Like, well, there's a lot of people getting pregnant right now, because it's what we're
everyone's getting
vibing, right?
married. Like,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
it's just yeah.
Yeah. And David, talking more about, now experience in life. We talked about, spirituality and religion. You talked about disconnection and oneness. Where where did you learn this from? Was it like your parents, or something that you learned after you grew up? Like you were raised religious, as you said. You went to church. How did you like
I
uh
wasn't yeah, I wasn't raised
left this
religious,
behind? No?
but yeah, I think I mean, I was raised pseudo atheist, I would say. Like my dad's kind of quite clearly atheist. My mum, she wants to believe in something. After after my grandfather died, she kind of started going to church more religiously, but like she doesn't go anymore. Like I think it was very much like a symptom thing. Um, but I went to a school that was like it was affiliated with a church and like kind of that kind of thing, so like that
Yeah.
was part of my life, but I never felt like, and I was even like in a choir, so I was kind of singing spiritual songs and things like that, but it very much felt, yeah, I kind of, I remember there was a moment where I wanted to believe in I guess a god, or like kind of in a religion, but yeah, it just, I didn't feel that it really made any sense to me to have that as a as kind of vital part of my life. So I guess I became much more sort of materialist in the kind of the philosophical sense, like thinking about like what the stuff of matter, and um what is it that actually makes, yeah, I guess kind of psychological. I think at the heart of my belief system is probably like a kind of history of thinking about psychoanalysis and things like that. So it's thinking about the nature of um yeah, who we are, like in terms of like from that kind of Descartesian thing of I think therefore I am, but then kind of going on to, oh, you know, but then what am I in the world if the world's looking at me? Like that's kind of the Lacanian thing, is like kind of
Mm.
how much of us do we actually create when the world is creating us at the same time? Like we're seeing ourselves reflected in other people, and people are reflecting their ideas of what we are onto us, and so, and we kind of take some of that on. It's like that, there's that constant shifting,
Yeah.
and I think um yeah, I kind of, I don't see that as connected to a higher power. I see it as like just a way that we all interact with each other, and it's through. It's kind of, it's a bit like the Ouija board, isn't it? That like no one moves the thing, but somehow it moves, and it's it's just all these micro movements, kind of four. form a kind of larger consciousness and a larger movement of both ideas, but also actions, for good or ill. So
Um,
yeah, that's my belief system. So yeah,
and David, since you know might have to go soon, let's go just to know the last questions, which are more whimsical but has a lot to do with maybe stuff that you like, your personality, and so
sure.
if if you could choose any superpower to have, what superpower would you choose, and what would be the first thing you would do with that?
Oh my god. Okay. First, I think I want to. It's a corny one, but I think I'd want to be able to fly. I think just because just the idea of being able to suddenly see the world from such a different perspective, and also be able to move in kind of such a simple way would be, it would be life changing. So I think that would be a great superpower.
And what would
first thing,
be the first thing you
first
do with that?
First thing I'd probably do the Superman thing of going as far. Yeah, it would probably have to be linked to being like in an astronaut suit or something. So and kind of see the world from above, like
Oh yeah,
to see the
see the
see the globe.
oneness of the world, like, and
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it has a lot of do what we were talking about, and I because astronauts when they travel and see the planet, and they realize so how little is our problems and our difference, and how
yeah,
we all should work together ever more. So
yeah,
flying it's a lot easier to get, and sometimes to get it out of our heads too. Like sometimes we think our problems are so big and so urgent, and they are really not,
yeah.
in the
Exactly.
scope of things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Everything in
And
the
go ahead.
no. Go on.
Uh, And what other weird and fantastical or fictional thing that you could draw from either fiction, games, literature, movies, anywhere, and you could make that thing real in our world. What
Oh
would you
wow.
choose to make it real, and why? And this can be a location, a faction, a power like the Force, or a character identity, anything like this.
Yeah, I think. Well, you give me an idea now. I think probably I think something akin to the Force would be absolutely awesome, because just to be able to, I don't know, both the thing of like telekinesis, but also being able to communicate over large distances, all of those kind of things that tie into the idea of the Force. It makes it feel like, oh god, what a
Yeah,
crap answer. But anyway, yeah, I'm going with it.
yeah.
That's
Would you be a Jedi or a Sith?
my I'd definitely be a Jedi. I'm
Yeah,
so yeah.
yeah.
I'm the
I
kind of
don't
guy.
know. I don't know if
Yeah,
I'm that strong, but because I imagine because when I'm
maybe you're
walking on the
more
streets, I'm trying to go somewhere, and people are walking really slowly. I wish I could just, woof, you know, yeah. But but I'm
yeah,
getting calmer now. I'm getting more,
yeah, good, good.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And David, final question is, do you remember the last time you felt really happy and just grateful for being here and being alive and everything? And if you do, can you share when was it and how was it for you?
You know what? It was probably last night. It was literally, I was coming back from giving a talk in Brixton at the Black Cultural Archives with my long-term collaborator Larry Achimbong, and it had gone really well. The talk, like it'd been it was a talk about art, but it was very much like there was so much, so many people from the community there. It felt like almost like a community gathering rather than like an art talk. You had people kind of wandering in and out, and people asking kind of mostly really good questions, but also kind of quite funny questions. And it felt really spontaneous and real and raw. And then I was coming home and I was listening to I think it's Incarcerated Scarfaces by Raekwon the chef, and it's just like, it's just one of those moments where everything clicks. It's like, it's been a good day, and this is a good music, and I just feel like I'm happy. Life is good right
Yeah,
now. So yeah.
that's fantastic. And do you have any last words to say to the weirdos out there, and last smashes to the wonderful weirdos that are listening to us?
Oh, well, thank you so much, weirdos, for listening to us, from fellow weirdos that we are. Thank you so much, Diogo, for kind of listening
Yeah,
to all my prattling on. I'm sorry I forgot the name of magical realism and things. I feel really
yeah,
stupid, but like
it was great. It was a great chat. We had great
yeah,
insights. We had some ideas,
it's
and
been
and
a real pleasure. Thank you.
David, for the weirdos out there who wanna find you and you wanna let them know what's going on with you, do you wanna send them to check out your work somewhere?
Yeah,
Tell us
sure.
about where you can find you and your work.
Yeah, you can find me on itch.io. I'm David Blandy. You can find me on there. And then also through Twitter at David. I still call it Twitter. David Blandy
Yeah, we all do.
RPGS.
We all
Yeah.
do. And then we are
David
not
Blandy
gonna call it
RPGS
anything else.
on that and on Instagram. And yeah, the Eco Mofos is still you can still order it on
Pre-order, right?
BackerKit. Yeah, pre-order on
Yeah.
BackerKit. So if you go to the Kickstarter or on BackerKit,
Yeah, we're gonna put links on those show notes, so
okay,
check
cool.
out the show notes for links for Eco Mofos and
Yeah.
the other works of David. So yeah,
You-
and David,
no,
can you take us out saying the catchphrase of the show? Just keep it weird, everybody.
keep it weird, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Weird Games and Weirder People. If you'd like to keep up with the show, please subscribe to be notified when we release new episodes. If you'd like to support us, please leave a review or head on to code-fi.com/WGNWP. See you next time, and remember, weird is the new wonderful.